Let's make sure we're recording it. From the UK, Jennifer from the UK is in the house. Beautiful. How you doing, Jennifer? Thanks for being here. Hopefully this is a better time for our friends across the pond. Hey, Ree, how are you? Good, great. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Brian, we're right on the dot. So I just want to get this started a little bit. This is going to be another live Q&A, guys. So hopefully everyone's really digging the second week. I know Brian's put in a ton of work on this. B, you've been slaving over there.
Nah, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah. Marie says she loves it. So now, since you're an organizer, Brian, can you see the questions as well?
I can this time. I was digging that. I was like, oh, look at that.
There you go. Good to be here. Awesome. So cool. Israel's in the house. Damon, nice speaking with you again. Just got off the phone with Damon. He is crushing it in Amazon, and hopefully going to do even better with our help. So good. So if we want to start it off, guys, you can go ahead and start shooting questions at us, Brian. I'm going to try to make you the presenter so that you can take the screen from me as well. So let's do that. So hang on just a second, folks. We'll get Brian's screen up, make presenter. All right. Okay, I think I can see your screen, Brian, so you just have to accept that, and then we're good to go.
There we go. Can you see my screen now?
Hey, look, there's Amazon. Can everyone see Brian's screen? Can we get a 1 if you can see Brian's screen? Okay, good. Plenty of people saying yes there, Brian, so that's good. Thought we'd kick it off with the first call. What do you think?
Yeah,
the first question, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've got some calls that were posted over into the Facebook group, and so we'll combine that.
Oh, you mean over there? Okay. So Reed says, for today's call, I sell 4 packs of my product via FBA and singles as FBM. I do much better on the 4 packs. For each 4-pack, I have the individual units listed as a variation on the main product. I sell 4 packs by far, so she sells more of the 4 packs. I've included the singles in my advertising on and off, but it doesn't seem to do much when I include them. Would you mind recommending, or would you recommend excluding the singles? They would seem to be seen by the shopper when they click through on the ad for the 4-pack. So can you see that question as well?
Yeah, that's in the chat questions you're saying? Yeah, okay, got it. All right.
Yeah.
It was either your audio or my audio that was breaking up there, but okay, so then, okay, so I guess the question is, you're basically saying that if you have 4 variations and only one of them is actually getting any love from Amazon from advertising, what do you do with that? Is that my understanding?
Right, exactly.
Okay, so then in that case, I mean, if Amazon's not giving the attention, if you don't have you may have to break it out into its own ad group in order to have it, place a different priority on it. Primarily Amazon, as far as the ad auction, they're going to look at the variation that has had the most unit sales history as far as the one that they're going to promote, have a preference to. They try to even it out, but ultimately they're going to combine a combination of what the buyer history is that's currently shopping, as well as what the buying or the conversion history is for that particular variation, because they're looking to try to make a good experience for the shopper, and so they're going to try to present the item that is most likely going to get the purchase. Sometimes they don't have enough history or data on that to really judge that well, though.
And Brian, just to let you know, Chicago's going through a bunch of really bad thunderstorms right now, so I think it's affecting my internet. Can everybody hear Brian okay? Is he going in and out for you? Can you guys give a 1 if you can hear Brian, if he's not breaking up? Because I'm pretty sure that I am. Okay. Yeah, I'm choppy. Okay, so Brian, that's my internet.
Okay.
That's the issue.
So
So why don't you take it from here, and I'll jump back.
All right. So yeah,
okay,
I'm an organizer.
You can take some questions, and I'll jump back.
Okay, I'm an organizer, and I'm also recording on my side here, so I think we're good if for some reason you get kicked off.
Oh.
Cool.
Okay, great.
All right, so let's grab another one here. Actually, let's kind of switch over. Let me grab one of the ones from the the Facebook group really quick. Come on. Okay, I see what the problem is. the Q&A thing. There we go. Okay, just had to figure out how to collapse the Q&A session because it covers everything up. All right, so then, okay, maybe not. No, so my browser just froze. Nice. Let me see if I can grab one in here that I can see. Okay, so then from Oslam, sorry we addressed this earlier. Would running a auto high test campaign for an ASIN that already has campaigns running hurt or cannibalize the existing campaigns? No, it's not really going to hurt. You're only doing it for a short duration as far as just testing, especially the high test. You only run it for 1 or 2 days. Generally, this is those auto high and auto low that you start out with, those are generally for product launches, so when you're first starting out. Now you're more than welcome to, and I know that a number of you have gone back and rerun those just out of curiosity to see what the bidding market range is, I guess, for your product, as well as to see if Amazon picks up any additional keywords at a higher cost. And of course, to do the validation step, especially if you don't feel like you're getting very good impressions or you're getting a lot of noise junk in there, then you want to see what Amazon thinks of what you're selling. So that's still a good practice to do even on an existing product. Those are short duration. Those are not going to have enough impact in order for you to worry about cannibalism or a drop in sales or any of that type of thing. Can everybody still hear me okay? Can you give me a 1? If I'm still coming through clear. Cool, okay. All right, let me grab one from the house questions here. 4 packs. All right, so from Demian, what limit of clicks, dollars, do you define to yourself in PPC before you give up on a keywords as a keyword you want to track and optimize? Okay, let me try to work on a translation here. What limit of clicks? So basically, how do you decide as far as whether or not you move forward with the keyword or not? So I'll review as far as whether or not, when I'm doing the optimization analysis, I'll be looking at keywords that I want to try to make some kind of a change on. Usually it's 10 clicks is my number. That's an arbitrary number that I use for myself in my analysis, just to kind of give me enough analysis. But ultimately, it's kind of your own judgment calls. If that's $5 in spend or if that's $50 in spend, it's kind of your own personal risk tolerance. So, but for me, I look at keywords and try to decide what I'm going to do with them currently, if they have at least 10 clicks, because that says that there's enough data in there for me to really judge as far as whether or not it's going to not convert or if it is going to convert. And I'll do that both on whether it is making sales or whether it's just losing money. It's just a case, it's a decision point. Generally, I'm going to, the second part of that is that generally I'm going to try to track, I'm going to try and track and optimize on 2 sides. One's the ones that are the most profitable, and 2, the most expensive. Because obviously I want to try to expand or grow upon the ones that are the most profitable. And then 2, and especially look at those from a organic ranking standpoint as well. So I'm going to track both my ads as well as my organic position for the keyword for my product. And then from a loss standpoint, obviously I want to try to reduce a runaway or an outlier keyword that is just spending money and is not converting, and I'm going to test it in different variations, or I'm going to test it in, like, say, different match types, as well as maybe lower bid points, in order to see if I can get it to perform differently than what it's presently doing. Sometimes it's just a case of, you just end up with a dog as a keyword that just doesn't convert very well, and just doesn't it doesn't work out very well from either a conversion standpoint or even a bidding standpoint, meaning it may be too expensive. Excuse me. So it may be too expensive. Maybe you've got some $2 or $3 competitive bid that's required in order to get conversions for a term. So I'll use that one as a seed keyword, even if it's losing money. If I think it's got potential, I'll use that as a seed keyword for alternatives to my keyword research. I'm gonna restart my web browser here since it crashed apparently. Okay, let's see if I can get this here. Okay, so let me look at the next question here. Thinking of rewriting my heading, I'm assuming your title, to put higher rank keywords. This is from Trudy. So thinking of rewriting my heading to put higher ranking keywords toward the front, is there a negative effect of changing the heading? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, title is a high risk field. So you don't want to, if you're already organically ranked well, if you've got strong sales going through, you need to be very careful about making title changes, because it has the most impact of any other change, other than moving to a different category, I suppose. But the title is so heavily weighted, you have to really pick your battles on that. Now, if you're not positioned well, if your sales suck, if you don't have much to lose by making a change, then absolutely experiment. But be very careful if you're actually making decent sales. I wouldn't say, don't be afraid. If you're making 5 sales a day as an example, and you're afraid to lose that, then you're in a position of fear. And so I would say go ahead and try to make a change and test it, and you can always roll it back. You're probably not going to see that huge of that much of an impact. But I'm definitely more careful as far as title changes. Now, as far as putting the key words into the front or the middle, my biggest point is, because we've seen on both sides, from an organic search standpoint, whether or not a brand name is in front of the title, or if the primary keyword is the front of the title, in which point, we've had different people say, oh no, it performs better, or Amazon prefers one or the other. Honestly, I tend to, unless the brand name is going to help me, it's going to add to the keyword richness of that particular product, I usually don't lead with it. Amazon prefers that, but then I don't actually lead with it. And so I think it's just something to test. As far as the biggest thing is, I try to make sure that it's readable, and especially the first 80 characters of the title are readable. I used to say 110 characters, but there's a trend that Amazon is going towards as far as shortening titles, as well as bullet points and some other content fields. And so they're starting to show less and less depending on what category you're in, especially on mobile. It's going to be a smaller title. So you want to lead with your first 80 characters. You want to make sure it leads with your most compelling, what's going to be attractive the most to your target audience, and be the most compelling for them. I wrote in one of the other Facebook groups, in the PPC troubleshooting Facebook group, I wrote an article a while back that had to do with talking about the titles as far as how they're seen in different views. I'll dig that back up again and post it up into probably the VIP group, since most of you are there. If you're not in the VIP group but you're on listening to this, and just message me and I'll get that to you. Let's see here while I load up. Try to get my browser working again here. Okay, so then, let's see, Helen. So Helen's question is, I'm still struggling to get Amazon to index my product properly. They are showing ads for the wrong phrases. So the next question is basically if you're basically asking as far as whether or not you have, if you just use one search term field, as opposed to just fill up one search term field as opposed to all 5. In general, my practice as far as the search term fields is the same as the title, where I try to go for quality. I don't duplicate between the title and the backend search term fields, with the exception of plurals or stemmed variations of words. Amazon has stated, just kind of a sidebar on this, is that Amazon has stated that they handle stemming just fine. In other words, if somebody does a search for house and you're bidding on housing, they're going to match it up. Honestly, I've been searching for examples, and I've challenged seller support on this as well, but I've been searching for examples across all the campaign reports that I look at. I've not found yet a single example where that is actually working. So in that case, that kind of reinforces the practice that I've long been doing, and that is I'll include not only the core keyword, but also the plural variation as well as the stemmed variations, having ed, ers, ing, that type of thing. But definitely focus on quality for both your title and at least your first search term field at a minimum. So then the second part of that question was, once Amazon is showing ads for those terms, then increase the breadth of the search terms, including keywords that rank. Yes, absolutely, yeah. Get your core down. Get those core quality keywords. Get those showing. Make sure that you're checking your campaign manager for any of those keywords that are coming up as 0 impressions, so you can troubleshoot those, and then focus on your core quality keywords that you know are going to be most likely to convert for your audience. Now, and I realize that that's something that's kind of an ongoing process, because the longer duration you've been running ads, the more you're going to learn about your audience, the better you're going to come up with quality keywords. So it's just going to be an ongoing process of both identifying those quality keywords and making sure they're in your title or your first search term field, and then adding on related keywords that you can. In fact, week 3, which is starting to get published today, I'm just gonna open up with just the first topic, which has to do with expanding into audience reach as opposed to just product advertising, and that goes into getting into some keywords that are not directly related to your product, but also attract the same audience that would buy your product. It's pretty cool. It's kind of a lot to go. It's a lot to take in, because it's definitely not what is popularly taught out there, but that's the kind of it's the kind of cool stuff that you're getting in this. So let's see here. All right, now I got a browser working here. Let me check the other questions here that were posted on the Facebook group. Give me another one in the chat if you can, if I'm still coming through clearly. I want to check that periodically. Awesome, thank you. Okay. All right, so pulling a question from the VIP group here. Okay, so then let's see here. Okay, so the first question is was one of those like, okay, things aren't working. What am I doing wrong? I'm not going to be able to answer that in one call here. Basically, having to do with where am I spending too much money? And it comes down to, optimizing and looking for some of the clues. I'm actually going to make a special session for week 4 that talks about just troubleshooting, identifying where the specific problems are, how to troubleshoot those, and how to work through some of the common issues that come up that may be hurting your campaigns or or individual keywords, and how to resolve those. So I'm gonna produce that. I've been meaning to update it, and so I'm actually re-recording that this week so that I can have that for week 4. And that specifically goes into probably some of the most common ones these days. Just kind of touch on this is if you're getting, for instance, if your impressions suddenly drop, if you have an ad group that suddenly just drops off the face of the earth, or you have certain days that just nothing happens, make sure that you're checking your buy box history. So in your business reports, you can check into your sales detail, sales and ASIN detail, I think it is. And it'll actually show you as far as what percentage in the past month that you've owned the buy box. This is something I mentioned before. I'll go ahead and state it again because it's happening so much these days. And that is, if you are, just because you're a private labeler and you're the only one on the product listing, does not mean that you own the buy box. You still have to qualify for the buy box. Part of that has to do with some of the two April changes that Amazon rolled out, included making sure that you're within a market price range. And so if you've got a premium product with a high price range, you might be triggering a loss of the buy box because you're out of range of what Amazon considers to be an acceptable market price range for that product type. It's something I'm sure it's not a perfect science on that one, because if you have a premium offering or a bundle, then how do they know the difference? Well, that's unfortunately they're the ones controlling the system, so it's a good check to make. The second one too is if you also run out of stock, or if you run low on FBA stock as an example, that might also trigger it. So I think the reason they implemented these was, one is so that they can have sales channel parity, so they can compete more effectively with eBay, Wish, Etsy, Jet, Walmart, Sears, all these other sales channels that you can sell on. They want to make sure that Amazon is offering the best pricing to their shoppers. The second thing too is they're trying to slow down, or to, I think it's kind of a penalty. Sometimes I wonder if some of these penalties are intentional or not, but to basically penalize people who are trying to slow down their sales by, when they're starting to run out of stock, they will jack up their price in order to slow down sales, and I think they're trying to control that more. They're trying to prevent sellers from doing that as much by taking away the buy box. So that's something to check at least. Okay. Okay, so Yuri asks, I have some keywords that are in some campaigns that are profitable, but in others that are not. What's the course of action here? So I guess, I mean, it begs some other questions as far as whether or not you're running multiple campaigns for the same products. I recommend that you consolidate when you can into your longest running and highest number of the highest click history. That's your highest value campaign from a manual campaign standpoint. And so generally you're going to have an automatic campaign, a manual campaign. You might have like a research campaign, but generally I'm shifting over to more of just using ad groups within the manual campaign in order to facilitate keyword research and some of the other more exotic methods that I'm starting to teach. So I would say look to see if you've got duplication. If you're trying to sell the same product through multiple campaigns, you may need to consider consolidating into your best campaign, which is your longest running and has the most click history, because the ad auction is going to give preference to that. But on top of that, go through and just optimize individual keywords. Come up with your own set of rules like mine. is I look for keywords that are losing money, not having any sales, have 10 clicks, and then I make a judgment call as far as whether or not those are product or audience relevant. And if not, then I might either test them out in other match types and different pricing and different bids, or I may eliminate those from my keyword portfolio. So the follow-up question here is that regarding the buy box. Who's getting the buy box? If you don't get the nobody's getting the buy box. You can still sell your product. You just don't have the add to cart button showing. It basically just comes up as a link that says it's available from these sellers, and of course you click through on it and it's still just you. It's simply just kind of making it less convenient for the shopper to simply just do an impulse click on your add to cart. So it doesn't transfer to somebody else. It's just a case of, unless there's other sellers, of course, on your listing, it simply just takes away the add to cart button. Okay, so back to the VIP group. Jenny had asked, as far as I had mentioned earlier, that there's a trend, Amazon has a trend towards reducing the number of characters that are allowed in the bullets and title and such, and description. Not on the description, however, on the title, we're starting to see a lot more categories shift over to the shorter title lengths, such as 80 characters. If you're affected by that, then obviously you'll have to adjust to it if you want to try to make a change to your listing. If you're not affected by it, then just understand at some point the trend is going that direction, and so you may get affected by that. But again, as long as you're focusing your best quality, most compelling statement to your shopper in those first 80 characters, then that, I think, is your focus. And then let any kind of title length restrictions come out later on. I'm not really seeing any definite correlation between if you're exceeding the length of a title or a bullet, if that has some other impact or some kind of limitation. That was more theoretical that we were exploring, but we haven't found any evidence to really support that that's actually what's going on. As far as the description, though, my comment on that was the description on desktop, I think it's like 1,000 characters. On mobile, it only shows the first 220, 240 characters, I believe, for mobile users. You figure half the shoppers are mobile. And so you want to make sure that first couple of sentences in your description is also compelling. You're not just going into saying, hey, this is 3 inches by 4 inches and is made out of pure silicone, whatever. You want to go in there and say, look, you really need this product because it's going to make your life, successful. Whatever the sales side of it's going to be for that description. For that mobile user, they're less likely to drill down in and read through a description in full. They're just going to glance at the top and just make a decision based off of what they're going to see in the title, the image, and the description in that first 220 to 240 characters. All right. Let me get the next question here from the group, or from the call. How many characters can be safely entered into each of the fields in subject matter? So thanks, Jennifer, for that question. So the subject matter field, that's kind of a funny one. You just happen to hit on a field that I'm gonna share with you on this call here, because this is private. This is not something I normally would share publicly. I'll share it with my private clients, but I'll share it here with you because you're now part of that inner circle. The subject matter field is one of those back-end fields on the keywords tab that allows you to, so supposedly allows you to basically target as far as, there's audience and that type of, those type of fields. But subject matter field, I haven't gotten a good definition from Amazon as far as what that's specifically used for. They just kind of make a general statement. It's like, yeah, it helps with, relevance to a shopper, but they don't go into more detail on that. So here's my thought on that one. Here's what I've actually tested, and it works about, I would say, probably 60% of the time. So it's worth testing. It's not a guarantee. And that is, take your primary keyword or secondary keyword phrase and populate the first field of the subject matter field. Don't populate the other four. Allow Amazon to focus in on that first search term field. That first subject matter field, excuse me. And what I've found on that is, this is the 60% of the case, is you can actually get an organic bump or increase in your search result position. So it doesn't really have an impact on pay-per-click, but it actually does have an organic impact in some cases. So it's worth testing. Here's the strategy that I like to use is, if I have a secondary keyword or any keyword that I've seen convert, but maybe is organically sitting at the top of page 2, and I want to get that onto the bottom of page 1, just move it forward 2 or 3 positions, then I'll use the subject matter field in order to populate that that keyword. As far as the number of characters, I think actually, I know that there's certainly a limitation on the number of characters that you can have, that you can bid on in campaigns, and certain fields have character limits. I would think that probably 80 characters is probably all you're going to get out of that one if you populate it. Most people don't have a search term that's 80 characters, so. But I would just have one. I wouldn't stuff it full of words. I would just use an actual search phrase for a search term. Okay. Okay, next question from VIP. Tina had asked, as far as like their title is locked, you can't make any changes or optimization. Yeah, certain listings, this is not even a matter of whether or not you're brand registered or not. It's just Amazon has some internal criteria as far as whether or not they're going to allow title changes to be made by the end user. So sometimes you just have to. If you can't make a change to your title, you can save a title change, but it just may not actually reflect as far as what's publicly visible. And so in those cases, you just need to contact seller support and have them manually change it. It's a pain, but that's the best approach on that. And thank you for Ashraf for replying with. Oh, I see. You're actually okay. So you actually recommend try using the flat file upload. Yeah, if it's just a title change or some piece of content change that's just not working, just contact seller support. All right. So then the other question is, after analyzing auto campaign and finding the good performing keywords, should I move them into a manual broad phrase or exact match manual campaigns? Yes. Yeah, and for an automatic campaign, yeah, that would be the next step. So I think we rolled that into, I think it's beginning of week 2 training. That was more of a kind of a basic optimization. Basically leading off of week 1 into week 2, you're basically taking your automatic campaigns that you started out in week 1 and you're identifying those keywords that, your first priority, of course, is to validate your listing. Second is to see what your price range is as far as the market bid range is for your product. And then third is, of course, start identifying which keywords are either helping you or hurting you at the moment and figuring out a different plan for them. And so if they're helping you, I will always copy those over to a manual campaign with a slightly higher bid. In in all three match types, in broad, phrase, and exact. Test those for a couple of weeks and see if those are going to perform just as well, if not better, when isolated into specific match types. Again, I've covered this a number of times, but this is something that is very important to me. Understand that depending on how descriptive and targeted a keyword is going to probably dictate as far as whether or not it's going to perform better in broad match versus exact match. The more descriptive, the more targeted, it's generally going to perform better in exact match. There are certainly exceptions when there's certain individual words, a single keyword that describes a whole product class and is most popular, but in general, the longer tail keywords are going to perform better in exact match. But you don't really know until you test it out in all the match types. So that's why I actively test my best keywords and my worst keywords. I'll test in all three match types. Let's see here. Let's see. Didn't spend a lot. Okay. Just trying to pick out the ones. Some of these are just statements. They're not actually questions. Some of them we've already covered. Oh, so Katie's asking about the indexing as far as keyword indexing. Yeah, this is a hot topic in the troubleshooting Facebook group. We're still playing around with theories on this one and observations. In fact, there's solution providers who are putting together tools in order just to address this, but it's not a perfect science yet. Basically, what we're saying on this is that because of the, I think it was probably late April or mid-April, there was an update to the algorithm that basically said that the certain words in the search term fields were now being blocked or ignored, and so that is true. That you can have a bunch of words in your backend search term fields, and you can have some of those search terms or some of those individual words may not be indexed or connected to your associated with your particular product, your ASIN. And the way that you would test that is simply search on Amazon for the ASIN. In fact, if you see my screen here, let me find an example here. Let's see here. Throw me a 1 if you can still see my screen. Am I still sharing that? Cool. Okay. So you should see my Amazon screen. Great. Okay, so for instance, if I am, let me just grab one of these organic listings here and grab the ASIN. So in this case here, I'm basically just going to do a search on Amazon for an ASIN along with whatever word that I'm going to have that maybe is my back-end search term field as an example. Maybe I'll just say, gym mat. And what I can see on this particular case is the search result's going to show that one result for the ASIN along with the individual words, and I can see that my listing comes up below the marketing services ad. And so I know in that case that gym and mat or gym mat is actually being associated with my particular product. Now, if I said something like, toaster oven for this particular product, it's going to throw back and say, you know what, that didn't match. That didn't come up. But it's also going to show you some alternatives, but here are some other ones that, match up for a toaster oven. And so the idea behind this is you take every single word that you have in your backend search term fields and you run this test exercise for every single one of these to see whether or not it comes back and says, yep, you're indexed. Your listing is associated with this particular word. And then the theory behind that is that's going to make it possible for your listing to be organically listed or organically positioned for that particular word. or for your ads to show on sponsored products for that particular word. The tools that are being developed automate that process to take basically all the contents of your backend search term fields, you paste it into the tool, it goes out there and it checks every single one of them. And I would say probably, I think I've observed like maybe 80% of those, 80-90% of the time it's pretty accurate. This is still, for me, this is still new enough that it's theoretical. We don't have the answers as far as the full impact on this. It's more observation and testing at this point. If, okay, so Matt, that's a great question. So if a search term is not indexed, usually that means that it's not in a premium position within your search term fields, or it's not relevant to your particular product. You know, one of the things you may want to try doing is just throw it in, just throw the word by itself. You know, if we throw in exercise as an example, and we can see that all the different, you know, subcategories that this one is associated. Now, obviously, exercise is a very broad term, so maybe if I did something like, you know, trampoline as an example, that'd be more specific. Then trampoline, of course, is going to be associated with these different subcategories, and if your product is in one of these subcategories, you start getting that category search term relevance, right? And so if it's completely outside of the realm of, if your product is nowhere near the subcategory that's associated with that particular word, according to that particular word or phrase according to Amazon, then they may never choose to index it, nor show ads for it, nor show you organically for that term. You can certainly move that word around into different search term, in different positions in different search term fields, maybe higher up, closer to the front of, you know, search term field 1, to see if you can get that to index. And it only takes like 15 minutes for it to update. So if you make a change, you move it around in your search term fields to a different position, and then you run that again like 15, 20 minutes later, it should show you whether or not that actually works. There's a lot of testing we're still doing as far as sequence, as far as the order of words within search term fields, whether or not there's you know, we're given 5,000 characters, but is it actually half of that? You know, are we actually getting all 5,000 characters? And a lot of times we're seeing that, you know, maybe not. You know, maybe they're combining multiple fields outside of search term fields in order to determine how many they're actually going to associate with a product. So there's a certain amount of experimentation. The best way, just make sure that you know, focus back in on those high quality terms that are most likely, that are included in those converting search terms. Include those in your title, in your first 1 or 2 search term fields. It's probably the easiest way in order to make sure that you got the best chance in your advertising and your organic. So Rob, hopefully I picked up your question on that, as far as that one of the things that's being suggested as far as whether or not the 3rd, 4th, and 5th backend search term fields are being indexed. Again, I think that has to do with what you have in there, as well as how long you have your title, you know, that combination of your title along with your backend search term fields, how many total characters they're actually considering now, even though they give us 5,000 characters to work with, they're not using them all. And so some people say it's like, oh yeah, all the words index in all the fields. Some say that it's only the first, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 characters. Some of them it's just a case it only can be relevant words. It can't be irrelevant words. Like I wouldn't put prepositions in there and that type of thing, but. Checking some of these other questions here. Case. So is it Ellen or Elen? Not sure on the pronunciation on that, so I apologize. But 2 very similar products, same functionality, just slightly different look, each with color variations and overall same keywords. Should those be in those? Should those share the same campaign? Yes. Just place the different product designs into separate ad groups. Yes. Yeah, you got it. So just try to focus in on when you've got similar products like that, just different variations. It doesn't have to be parent-child, but if they're similar products, even on their own listings that are sharing the same keywords, sharing the same audience, and just have different variations as far as size, quantity, or color, then put those in the same campaign. For simplicity, you can put them into the same ad groups. However, if you want to split them out so you can track the SKU sales differently, then put each product into their own ad group. What that means is that if you're doing the 3 ad group practice of the match types, that means you're basically going to have a set of ad groups for each product. So if you have 3 products in the one campaign, you could end up with 9 different ad groups just to address the broad, phrase, and exact, let alone your keyword research ones. Now, if you create an ad group for keyword research, for some of the techniques that I go into as far as the keyword research that I discussed in week 2, a gold panning technique that I'm going to be discussing that I discuss here in week 3 coming up. Those you can put all the ad groups, or you can put all the products into the same one, and that's fine because it has a different purpose. But generally try to keep them all in the same campaign that are related. Okay, so just checking the last questions here on the VIP group. Explaining the troubleshooting steps for the backend. Okay, so that's what I just covered. As far as troubleshooting, if you have something, you have a keyword that's not indexing correctly in the backend search term fields, move them around, run a search on them, see if they're actually being associated with a subcategory that is relevant to your product. Because it may just be getting filtered out because it's relevant. Could be because it's in the wrong position. A little bit of testing and experimentation to be done there. Okay, so Jennifer, you added to this with 53% of backend keywords are not indexed. Some terms are very irrelevant, but Amazon still won't index us. Are those, Jennifer, are those in the first couple of search term fields? Sometimes maybe try isolating those into their own, just as a temporary experiment. Just try to put it, isolate it into the first search term field by itself and see if Amazon still doesn't index you after that. There are certain keywords that just are too broad of appeal that they're going to ignore. There's some keywords that they're just going to block overall. Some of those include things like descriptive words like best or most, those kinds of things. I guess those would be adjectives, wouldn't they? Or adverbs or whatever. I'm not an English major, sorry. So there's other terms that they're so overused that Amazon ignores them because they become noise. Things like accessories or supplement or some of these kind of words, they generally don't get indexed, or they don't perform well in advertising either. So I was trying to think now of a couple of examples of other words that I was really surprised that Amazon was blocking. I actually noticed this. Trying to put in. I was creating a campaign. I was adding a list of keywords, and I was having problems with this one keyword phrase. They said no, it's not allowed. You can't. You can't. This is not a valid keyword phrase. And it turns out that there was a word that was in that keyword phrase that they were blocking at the time of creating the campaign. So not only are we seeing where they're not getting indexed in the backend search term fields, or they're getting ignored, but now it looks like they're actually going to start blocking some of those words, even when you try to even create a campaign for it. And we don't know what that list of words are. They're not providing it to us, but we usually find out just because we can't get it to work. Not a very efficient way of doing it, but Okay. So Yuri asks, in the hierarchy of PPC in the hierarchy for the PPC ads, title then backend search terms. Yeah, I would say the title is going to be weighted more than the backend search term fields. Bullets and description are primarily going to be used by organic. That's our observation, at least. All right, so Katie asks, in the 4-part video series, we actually decided I was getting some number of questions as far as that 4-part video series, because I went in to kind of just explain some of the same concepts that I cover in the training, but maybe they were just kind of in a different way, and so they were better understood there or in the training. We decided we're going to go ahead and add in those other training, those launch videos that were still educational, of course. We're going to go ahead and add those into the week 1 content just so that you have those as a reference. You can re-review those. They just kind of present the same information as some of the topics in training when it comes to match typing and the relevance trifecta. I forget now what the third one was, but so those are going to be available there. But so your question on this one is, in video number 3, you suggest using 1 to 2 match types for each keyword after testing. I suggest using all 3. There's technically 4 because you figure there's 2 broad, 1 manual, 1 automatic, but I always test all 3. So I see. Okay. After your testing, you basically narrow it down. So the concept on that is, you start out by testing the keyword in all 3 match types. Then you're going to see how it performs in each one of those, and likely you're going to be able to identify 1 or 2 of those match types that just don't perform as well as one of the other ones. So, one of them is going to stand out, maybe 2 of them stand out as performing well, and you maybe have one that just doesn't perform well, and you just discontinue that one. You stop running, you pause the keyword for that specific match type that's not performing well, and allow the other 2 to just, be the ones that work. That's just kind of a normal process of optimization. You can do that from a search term standpoint, from a match typing standpoint. It's just a case of getting a full set of data in these different, match types or different keywords matched up with different products, whether it's singular, plural, whether or not you're using stemming. These are all different kinds of variations on tests that you can run, and then you can look at the data later and say, you know what, this one is performing better than this other one, and then make a decision off of that. Mamta asks, okay, so I ran a validation for 4 days. Got 40 converting terms. Awesome. That's really good. Have 5 products with different design, but same bullets, description, title, keyword. So you're saying, according to my workflow, that I should be running keywords research on top 5 most relevant key phrases. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, definitely act on all of them. So the ones that just have one-off, so basically just have one conversion, one order, are less reliable as far as you don't know if that's going to be an ongoing repeating pattern of sales. But it's certainly worth testing, certainly worth using those as, certainly testing them in the different match types, see if you can get those to grow and do more with. And so, yeah, anything that converts, you want to at least give it its own time in order to mature and to grow. As far as keyword research, yeah, I would also use those for keyword research as well. So Jennifer, you kind of threw in there as far as like you did the second and third fields of the backend search term fields, I guess, and then you stripped out all the junk, but the competitors are ranking. So I'm not sure what you're referring to on that by the competitors or ranking. It's kind of a, if you could explain that a little better. Can competitor brand names be used as keywords? I'm actually covering that in this week, in week 3 training. So competitor targeting. The challenge with competitor targeting, this was way easier back in 2015 because we could simply just run a campaign with no other content or anything and be able to get ad impressions for competitor brand names. So, but in January, they started introducing algorithm updates that made that more difficult. We had to have more descriptive, where we had to have the full search term along with the brand. In April, they made that a little bit tighter so that even in the back-end search term fields, most of the common brands that are actually listed already on Amazon are not getting picked up. They're not getting matched to. However, if you get a little more creative and go to some of the off Amazon, some of the national brick and mortar retail chains, look at some of the national brands that are selling there that may not currently be listed on Amazon, and add that as part of your basically your brand name portfolio that you add into not only your back-end search term fields but also your campaign, then you're more likely to get some hits on that. I go into that a little bit more detail. I've been trying to get some more confirmation from Amazon regarding terms of service. They've backed off on that restriction as far as having brand names in the back-end search term fields. I've heard from 2 sources, both one from seller support as well as from sponsor products team, that yeah, they're not so concerned as far as which keywords that you actually put into the back-end search term fields, including competitor brand names, because they're going to use their own system to filter those out anyway if they think there's any kind of issue. So they're kind of more taking a technical route to enforce any kind of policy that they may have in the past said was policy. So still a little gray area on that one, but at the same time, it has a very low penalty. It either just does not show the ads, or it, you know, or even if they do say, hey, you can't do that, then they just tell you, you know, hey, you can't use, you know, that particular brand name. Certainly not in your visible content. A competitor brand name in visible content, you definitely don't want to do. But in your back-end search term fields, they don't seem to care as much. Ree, as far as your question, as far as pausing low-performing keywords rather than archive, no, I wouldn't do either, actually. Pausing or archiving is my last step. So I always test in other match types first. I test different bid points, maybe lowering the bid 25%, 50% to see if it will perform in a less frequent scenario. And then ultimately I will you know, maybe reduce the bid down to 20, 30 cents and just let it run from there if it's relevant to my product. If it's completely irrelevant, if it's a complete miss, like I think I showed in one of my training examples this week, where it was the product was actually like a, you know, like a gym champ trampoline or a gym mat, and one of the keywords that was being shown a bunch of times was like cheap deals. Completely irrelevant, completely generic. Yes, those I would absolutely pause or negative those. Okay, so Jennifer, back to your statement there. So there are a couple of important, whoops. There we go. Okay, so there's a couple of important words that we can see competing products rank on, but we can't seem to get ranked for. So you're saying that if you do a search for that particular word, that you have competitors that show up, but yours doesn't. Okay, but you know for sure that those are converting keywords, they have value. So are you able to, you're able to advertise against that word? I mean, how are you assessing the value on that, I guess, is my question. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, so you're able to advertise on it, but you're just not able to organically rank for it. Okay. I mean, they're two different algorithms, so there may be something in there that's considering your list. It's basically filtering you out from being listed. I'd be curious as far as what kind of cost per click that you're seeing on your advertising for that particular search term. If it's a high cost per click, for instance, that suggests that it's going to require a lot more relevancy in order to get ranked well, in order to, as far as the ad rank, meaning the sorting as far as which listing to show first, second, third. If it has a high cost per click, then it may just require more relevancy to connect. I'll have to look at that one a little in more detail. Let's see here. Oh, that's a good point, Jennifer, on the cleaning up the back-end search term fields has made a positive organic difference. That's good to know. Mainly, did it have a positive organic difference on the keywords that you left in there? Basically, your quality keywords that you left in your first one or two back-end search term fields. You saw that benefited your organic for those specific terms. Okay, so Howard, Howard asks, I've been running two auto ad groups, 8 months for one and 1 year for the other. Okay. The product running for 1 year was performing much better during the first 6 months. Should I assess keywords only from data for the last 2 months? You've got two different viewpoints on that one. You can say, okay, what's working now versus what historically worked that maybe you can resuscitate. Consider taking the ones that used to work, throw them into a manual campaign and see if you can specifically have Amazon run those. Amazon, because they control that, they're going to continually gravitate toward showing your product ad toward where they're going to think is going to get the click-through on the advertisement. And so if they lost confidence at some point in your product in order to gain the click-through, maybe a low click-through rate, for instance, then they may have moved on to other keywords that they thought were going to be more likely to get a click-through. Automatic campaigns, generally, those are not exhaustive as far as the number of keywords that they focus on. Generally, we saw that in 2015, we used to see 100, 200 keywords that Amazon would show our ad for. In 2016, we see more like 30 or 40 keywords that they show our ad for. So they've definitely refined the number of keywords that they actually put their focus on in an automatic campaign, which is why you have to make up for that with a manual campaign and expand that out. And the way you do that, it's awesome if it performs well in your automatic campaign, but also make sure you've got some additional testing going on with your manual campaigns as well. Alan, as far as the do not pause or archive, okay, so you brought up as far as those those test campaigns, the automatic, the high-low automatic campaigns. Yeah, the high campaign ended after 1 or 2 days anyway. So if you set that, and so that one is going to be paused or just ended automatically if you set the end date on it. So that one's going to stop anyway. The low campaign, generally what I'll do is because I'm shifting over the keywords over to and the research over to manual campaigns, I'll generally just drop down the automatic campaign to a lower bid and just continue to run with that. I won't pause it. I'll just have it continue to run. Amazon runs basically on the lower bid, less competitive terms and just continue to bring those in. And I'll just continue to run that automatic, continuously. Individual words, individual search terms or keywords, I'll run through the match type testing, different bid testing, and then ultimately, lower the bid. And if it's not relevant, then I'll go. If it's completely not relevant and it's distracting from what Amazon is advertising, and it's just a complete miss for my product or my audience, then in those cases I'll pause it because there's very little risk of there being any kind of penalty organically if it's not relevant. If it doesn't have relevant to your product. So yeah, you can pause or archive entire ad groups if you want to, and campaigns, but generally that's because you've already shifted over the traffic over to another campaign or ad group that is now taking over. Okay, so for those who are on the call right now, if I've gone through the entire list of questions that are on the call, if I didn't address your question, can you repost, please? And while you do that, I'll check the VIP thread. Okay, Katie. How much do you think the lower converting keywords from broad match campaigns affect the organic sales negatively because of the negative effect on overall conversion? You know what? I know that the whole idea of the conversion rate makes all the difference with the organic. I have yet to see any evidence to prove that. I hear the theories. I hear podcasters talk about that kind of stuff where it's the conversion rate that makes the difference, but I'm sorry, I don't support that. I haven't seen any evidence to support that the conversion rate actually makes a difference on organic. Now, organic algorithm is based off of the number of units that you sell. So yes, I mean there's that factor of conversion, but as far as a conversion as a conversion rate versus sessions versus page views, I'm not seeing a correlation that Amazon is actually using there. As far as casting the wider net, getting more traffic, so there's a couple ways you can look at that. One is initially you're going to start out pretty wide, and you're going to start identifying some of the variations on your, it's basically you're trying to sell your product to a large audience. Anybody who's willing to buy, is anybody who's shopping for a Mother's Day gift should consider my product. You're likely to spend a lot of money, showing your ad to a big group of audience, to a large audience, but may not actually get the conversions as a result of that unless it's specifically a very popular item for that particular promotion or holiday or whatever. So going too generic can be inefficient. It kind of gives you an idea as far as gives you some insight as far as what's popular or what is being shown the most, but it's very non-specific as far as why it's being shown or what people actually convert to. A little trick on that is that take a look at your, when it comes to your ad, actually look up your product detail page on a mobile device. They don't do this on desktop anymore, but on a mobile device such as a smartphone or a tablet, you'll see that there's a section called customers who viewed this item purchased another item. And it'll actually tell you, it's like, yeah, you had a visitor to your page, but then they went off and they purchased something else. That's kind of an interesting insight as far as your audience flow that you may want to consider looking at your own product detail page on a mobile device. But generally, kind of going back to that really quick is, because I know that we're running over on time now, so is if you have you basically cast that wide net, all right, Kitty? So you cast that wide net in order to get a large audience until you get enough traffic and enough search terms that click through on your ads in order to start building up a pattern of which of those search terms get the clicks and actually convert to your product, at which point then you can narrow back down into that target audience that is actually converting. But you got to start with kind of a, the billboard, the shotgun approach as far as trying to have that wider net, and then you narrow it back down again, and then you look and make that profitable and have a higher conversion because you're focused in on your audience that you understand better now. And then you take that audience you understand better now and you apply the week 3 training as far as to expand that back out in order to gain more exposure with that target audience. So you go wide, narrow, wide, or somewhat wide. Howard, pausing campaigns can harm overall performance. The concept on that is something that I had come up with back in 2015 and that I observed. I still see this, but it really has to do with how relevant it is. As a campaign, it's going to have a collection of keywords in that campaign. If those keywords are directly relevant to your product and you don't have those keywords running any other campaign, then if you pause that campaign or that ad group, for instance, then you're basically signaling to Amazon that you don't think that those keywords are relevant to your product. At which point you can have, depending on how relevant those keywords are to your product, you can have a negative organic position, basically a slide in your organic position for keywords related to the keywords that you've paused or gone away from. Same thing happens when you discontinue using Bid Plus. Bid Plus focuses in on just like maybe 1 or 2, 3 keywords that they target. And when you turn it off, you can see an organic slide as well for those keywords if you're not aggressively bidding on that same keyword in some other campaign when you transition out. The reason, a common follow-up question on that is that because you are no longer selling enough units to hold your organic position? But we've actually observed where even if you were selling 0 units, you could still see that penalty occur on your organic position. And again, the impact is going to be based off of how relevant that keyword is to your product and whether or not you are still running that keyword somewhere else in another campaign, for instance. So yes, you can pause a campaign, you can pause an ad group, you can pause a keyword if it's not directly relevant to your product. Elan, as far as the high-low, just using the same campaign, yeah, that's what I used. That's what I originally taught. I think that's actually the instructions I still have on the troubleshooting Facebook group. The reason that I split these out into 2 campaigns that are running concurrently, high and low, for this academy is because the other method just takes longer. You run it for 2 days and then you run another one for a week. You know what, to save some time, to get more data faster, to get you moving faster, that's why I recommended running those concurrently. Kind of a variation on that tactic, Elan, is to run an automatic. You could run a single automatic campaign. This just takes time, but there's another tactic you can kind of test this out to see, because part of the art of this is trying to find the sweet spot for a specific keyword. And so sometimes what you do is that, I make a recommendation maybe to lower an auto campaign by 25% or lower a keyword bid by 25%. If you want to, every single day you reduce it by 5 cents so that you're just going down, 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 down every single day, or every single week you drop it by 10% or increase by 10% just to test different things, absolutely do that. If that's something that you're up for and you've got the work habit in order to remember to do that on a regular basis, then absolutely test in a more progressive fashion in order to find those sweet spots that are going to work best for your keywords or your campaigns, your ad groups. All right. Looks like we're starting to wind down here. Good. Okay, so actually I think that was the last one. Hopefully I answered your question there, Elon. Give me a, for everybody still on the call, give me a 1 if you got some of your questions answered or you got some value out of this call. Sweet. That's exactly. How many of you are, give me a 1 if you're in the VIP group. Give me a 2 if you're not. Okay. Yeah, it's like 95% of you are in the VIP group. That's awesome. Do you guys get a lot of value out of the VIP group? Nice. Tons, yes. Bunch of 1s. Awesome. I'm glad to be there. That's obviously where my focus is to make sure I get those. Because, you know, obviously as a reminder, is that, Rob, haven't been totally active yet. Man, get in there. I mean, there's a lot to cover. You know, there's a lot we cover, and okay, it's like I'm trying, man. Take it easy. The challenge with Facebook is that it's great for these, you know, quick questions, answers, you know, like, ooh, you know, what's my opinion, all that kind of stuff. But it's pretty easy for things to kind of get out of order and for questions or, you know, sub-replies to get missed. So if I don't respond to your questions, again, just a reminder, just go ahead and ping me by putting my full name into your post. I'll get a notification that says, hey, you know, somebody mentioned you. Or somebody tagged you on a post so that I can go back and take a look at it, just because Facebook's organization kind of sucks when it comes to trying to manage it, because I can't simply just, if anybody knows any other like add-ons to help manage Facebook threads, man, please let me know, because that would make my life so much easier and be able to address everything. Yeah, I mean, Gary, I tell you what, it's, yeah, too much on my plate. You know what? I hear you. You know, I mean, like we've all got businesses to run. We all have to deal with suppliers and advertising and quality control and whatever Amazon wants to do from one week to the next. I get that. It's a lot to take on. I think that each of your decisions to be in this academy, obviously I'm biased, but at the same time, I also understand as far as how hard I work to try to make this information succinct and actionable as I can. Now, I'm not going to be 100% perfect on it, but certainly making an effort so that you're not having to spend days and weeks going through threads and comparing opinions and experiments and that kind of stuff. It's like, you know what, this is what's working. Do this. Ignore all the other crap that's out there. There's always going to be experiments that certainly my team are going to do. I'll make sure that I communicate those out to each of you. If something new comes up or something major changes, you're going to know, especially in the VIP group. That's going to be the first place to be in the know. Heine, actually, I don't know if that's your name or that's your business name, but as far as the campaigns, you said you've been told that campaigns perform best with one ad group, one match type per campaign. Yeah, I've heard of theories like that. There's some other groups that say it's like, yeah, we create 100 campaigns and it works great over time. I don't know if that still works. That probably worked back in 2015. I don't think, based on the new algorithm changes, that works any further. However, you know, I'm always willing to learn. But in general, the way that the ad auction works is it definitely takes into consideration how many clicks that you've had at the campaign level. And I've challenged Amazon this a couple different ways, and they said, no, it's at the campaign level, it's not at the ad group level. And so you can have 100 ad groups within a campaign. It's the cumulative click history of the campaign that is used in the calculation and I'm going to get into that more as far as how that calculation works and how the ad auction works even in more detail. That's part of, I think that's the last segment that I'm doing in this week 3 training. So that'll be kind of cool, because the more you understand the mechanics of how the system works, the better you can play the system. The better you can make sure that you're optimized and working with the system and not simply just getting filtered out before you even start and getting frustrated. That's the cool thing. You're going to get some inside information on this that nobody else is getting. Yeah, Gary, as far as getting behind the course, don't worry about getting behind. The content is there. You've got access to it. It'll still be there. Replay it. Go back over it. If you don't understand a concept, review the video a couple of times, post a question, say, you know what, I just don't understand this piece of it. Get your question answered. There's no, I won't be cliche and say, there's no wrong question or bad question. But at the same time, make sure you're plugged into the group, as well as just dedicate some time each week to go back over and fill in some of the areas that, try to get at least one video under your belt. Even if it's a 2-minute video, try to get that under your belt each day. Yeah, no, I'm getting a lot of concurrence as far as like, we're just overwhelmed, and I hear you on that. That's another reason why I've got my development team that is working on the version 2 of the PPC scope, and I know, Matt, you wanted me to show the second version of that. I wish I could bring that up and actually do a demonstration on that right now, but we're actually in the process of migrating over to the new production servers so that we can step up our beta testing and get that working correctly. The idea with version 2 of the PPC scope software is that that's going to help you be more efficient than simply just going through the spreadsheets and doing analysis. It's actually going to assist you identify, okay, where do I need to focus my attention on right now so that I can move on to other business aspects. So we're trying to make the software help you save time, not create more of a commitment. Question regarding as far as the Friday the 13th update. There's a number of sellers who were impacted back on May 13th, 14th, which we're calling it the Friday the 13th update. I've checked in with 3 of my connections with Amazon. I've only gotten a response from one of them at this point, but I'm still following up with the other 2. But the first response was there was no algorithm update on that date. And so that was due to something else, but they didn't have any further information as far as what that was, or they couldn't provide any additional information. So it could have been a minor algorithm update that simply just wasn't communicated properly to the rest of the teams. Amazon development teams and support teams are pretty much siloed from each other. So fortunately, I do have a connection with the development team. So. But yeah, as soon as we get some answers on some of these other, these specific drops, then my best advice is don't gloss over how the ad auction works. Really consider how, and this is why I'm coming back and I'm revisiting it back in this week 3, is to make sure that you actually have like an action plan to say, okay, am I actually playing to what the ad auction actually wants? Therefore, as far as whether or not it's, you're having problems with optimization or relevance, and you can correct that. Rob, as far as downloading it, honestly, as far as being able to download the videos, we live in a world of video piracy, and I suppose the argument can be made that it has nothing to do with your own personal use. It's more about every single training launch that's gone out there gets hacked by somebody, or gets copied and basically given away. So we're just trying to limit that a little bit. Let's see here. Okay, all right. Did I pronounce, Heini, did I pronounce it correctly then? Okay. Yeah, Jennifer, trying to give you a little bit of insight as far as to kind of understand what I'm getting plugged into these days. But as far as the development team, yes, I've got one strong contact and one kind of weak contact over at the actual sponsor products development team. One of them is more reliable than the other one as far as information goes. But part of that has to do is I'm also getting plugged into the Amazon's global network of service providers for sponsored products consultants. And so they're looking at this training as well as software as far as whether or not that makes sense in order to essentially the conversation that we're having is whether or not we could basically become a certifying agency for new, well-trained, qualified advertising consultants for Amazon. I went through their certification process for an Amazon certified service provider for sponsored products, and I got to tell you, it was a joke. So yeah, so it was unfortunately it was very rudimentary, and so I was kind of surprised that they're actually marketing that out to sellers as, hey, we have, these consultants and they can take over your advertising. I wouldn't, not based off the certification exam, but that's why I want to step it up and I want to try to bring them up to a higher level. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 more questions and then we're out because we're coming up on an hour and a half. So, Toby, we have 25 campaigns running both auto and manual campaigns. You have 25 campaigns, okay? Where do we start as far as cleaning up things with blowing this up, or do we just handle one at a time? Yeah, it's pick your battle. Focus in on. There's 2 ways to look at this. One is, okay, I want to make my best ones more efficient. There's also the whole, risk factor as far as, if I start making a bunch of changes to campaigns and consolidation, all that kind of stuff, can there be an impact on my organic or my sponsored sales? Yeah, there can always be. We can't predict everything that a change is going to make as far as on the Amazon system. However, if you make them calculated correct, one of the things to focus on is if you have multiple campaigns sharing the same product, same, everything, and they're just simply duplicate campaigns. Maybe you have different campaigns for each ad group or for each match type, for instance. Look at your longest running, highest click history campaigns as your primary or your core protected campaign, and look to slowly consolidate those other campaigns into that master campaign, if you will. Don't do it all at once. I wouldn't recommend just doing a big bulk operations report upload and just changing everything at once. I would do it in stages so that you can observe, okay, this had this effect, positive or negative. That also comes into play, kind of add to that, Toby, is that when it comes to multiple campaigns, when you're dealing with a lot of campaigns, how do you approach it? The same thing I would recommend when you have, hundreds of or thousands of SKUs or, thousands of keywords and you're trying to optimize. Pick your top, pick your top and your bottom. Work on the big rocks, your most extremes. Handle each of those, reduce the ones that are performing badly and make sure that you optimize the ones that are performing well. Focus on those 2 ends first and then work toward the middle. Ultimately you may have enough going on with your business, enough SKUs, and it may require some assistance, some VA assistance. That's part of one of the reasons that one of the advantages of this kind of training is you could hire a VA to come in and say, look, sit down, spend a week just going through these videos nonstop until it's, until most of it sinks in, and then these are the steps I want you to do to continually optimize my listings for me. It's pretty easy, to be able to do that. So, okay, so yeah, Katie, as far as the the sponsor products, as far as the sponsor products optimization pilot, yes, they are using. So Amazon India is the one who started that program that they primarily have throughout basically Europe and India that they've been running as far as these certified solution providers or certified service providers when it comes to sponsor products. And those are primarily agencies that are certified and they refer business to. And so there's agencies. There's also, but that's also being controlled by Amazon India as well. And so it's kind of a blend of both on that one. But that's the same organization that's currently rolling it out to U.S. sellers. So Matt, you said you mentioned a recovery process or plan. You're saying as far as cleaning up multiple campaigns, basically kind of get back to a more efficient organization? Yeah. Let me see what I can come up with on that. I had not created that specific plan. It was more of a case of getting the concepts through as far as why and how the system works and why to do it, as opposed to step A, step B when it comes to cleanup. Let me work on that. That's a good suggestion. Nice. Most of us here because we already made a mess of it. Boy, I tell you what, is that I've certainly seen plenty of plenty of accounts in my time here that, yeah, some of these it's just like, what were you thinking? But sometimes it's just, what, there's not been a lot of good information. I mean, would you agree? Would you all agree? I mean, that there's not been a lot of good, consistent information out there as far as how all this stuff should be done. Cool. And do you feel that what you've learned in the academy is, would you say it's just as good at or much better than what's currently out there publicly? Nice. Good. Love it. Nice. Thank you so much. I appreciate those compliments. Yes. Well, I mean, obviously you made the investment to be here. You're taking the time, both not just in money, but in time, in order to get your head around this stuff. Because honestly, you're going to be, especially when it comes to probably the two big things that I would say that I'm most excited about teaching this is really understanding how the ad auction actually works and how to conform your advertising in order to make that work, as well as being able to go beyond simply just marketing your product and actually reaching out and advertising to an audience. Those two concepts will put you light years ahead. Will put you, to use Ree's terminology there, put you light years ahead of most of the sellers out there. So you're gonna have a definite advantage when everybody else is scratching their head going like, I don't understand why this latest algorithm change impacted. You're gonna be like going, oh, you know what, that actually makes sense because this is how the system actually works, and therefore I understand how it plays into it. Yeah, oh, yeah. So Rob, yeah, as far as don't offer my services, well, I probably won't offer the training. The software, they may pick up a variation of that, but that's something software is going to be publicly available anyway. But as far as the training goes, yeah, I don't. Yeah, we'll see. I don't think that they could come back and come up with a good enough offer for that. Um, but no, I agree with you, Rob. Is that you know, like you said, it's like half joking, but at the same time, it's like, you know what, this is exclusive information that you're getting, and I'm going to continue to add to it. And so, you know, your investment in time and money on this is what puts you into that lead position in order to make sure that that you've got the best information. All right, so we're at an hour, a little over an hour and a half now on the call, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Anything else critical and questions, or any statements or anything? Awesome. I am having the first segment, the audience targeting segment of week 3 is getting published today. If you are on the, if you're one of the first group to start, then you should get access to that right away. Otherwise, as you know, it's dripped on the day and the time that you started. That's just kind of the way that educational system works that we're using. So you should start seeing that soon. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions on the audience targeting, but it's a cool concept when you realize that just going beyond just trying to sell your product to people who are looking for your product, going beyond that into how to basically locate and how to advertise or remarket to that same audience that would buy your product, but maybe is not looking for your product today. So it's kind of cool stuff. All right. All right, I'm going to say goodbye. I want to thank everybody for your time.